The lake was quiet that morning, as though it had been holding its breath, waiting for me. Mist hung low over the water, turning the shoreline into something out of a dream. I parked my old pickup on the gravel drive and just sat there for a moment, staring at the little cabin that had once been the heartbeat of my childhood. My father built it with his own 2 hands, plank by plank. Back when he still believed in simple joys and honest work, it had been 15 years since I'd last stepped foot here. Life had taken me far away: marriage, children, career, then divorce and loss. But now, at 63, with the world feeling smaller and quieter, I felt the pull of home. Not the city, not the suburbs, but this cabin, resting on the edge of a silver lake, where memories of my parents lived in the walls and the smell of pine wrapped around me like an old friend. I whispered to myself, almost in disbelief, I'm finally back. The screen door creaked as I pushed it open. Dust motes floated through the sunlight. The place looked tired, but it was mine, every inch of it. I ran my hand over the kitchen counter where my mother used to knead bread. I touched the wooden beams of the loft where I'd carved my initials at 16. Tears welled up, uninvited but unstoppable. That's when I heard the voice. "Excuse me? What do you think you're doing in there?" The sharp nasal tone sliced through the still morning air like a siren. I turned to see a woman standing on the gravel drive, hands on her hips, sunglasses perched on her nose, and a little dog tugging at a rhinestone leash. She wore the look of someone who thought she owned the world. "I could ask you the same thing," I replied, forcing calm into my voice. "This is my property." Her lips curled into a smirk. "No, actually it's not. This is my neighborhood, and that cabin belongs to the HOA now. Didn't you get the notice? You can't just waltz in and claim squatters' rights." I blinked, stunned. The HOA? There was no HOA when my family built this place. This land has been in my name for decades. Check the county records if you don't believe me. The woman scoffed, pulling her dog closer. "Oh, don't you worry. I know exactly who owns what around here. People like you think you can sneak in and take advantage. But we run things differently now. And if you don't leave immediately, I'll call the police." Her words slammed into me like a hammer. I had just come home, to the one place in the world that still felt like mine. And here was a stranger, this self-appointed queen of the cul-de-sac, claiming ownership. "Ma'am," I said firmly, trying to keep my voice steady, "my name is Daniel. My father built this cabin in 1964. It was passed down to me legally. I have the deed. I have the tax records. This is my home." For a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes. Doubt. But just as quickly it hardened back into arrogance. She pulled out her phone. "That's it. I'm calling 911. I stepped forward, hand raised in a plea. "Wait, there's no need for that. I'm not trespassing. I belong here." But she was already barking into the phone, her voice loud and shrill enough to wake the birds from the trees. "Yes, this is Karen Anderson, president of the Lakeshore HOA. There's a dangerous trespasser in my cabin. Yes, I want officers here immediately. He looks unstable." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Unstable? Dangerous? All I had done was come home. I felt anger rising inside me, but also sorrow deep. Sorrow that something so sacred could be challenged so brazenly. My father used to say, "Son, a home isn't just wood and nails. It's memory, it's blood, it's your roots." And now this woman was trying to tear all of that away with a single phone call. I walked to the porch steps, sat down and took a deep breath. If she wanted to bring the police, then let them come. I had nothing to hide. Minutes passed. Karen never left, pacing back and forth on the gravel like a guard dog, glaring at me with suspicion. Finally, the distant sound of sirens echoed through the valley. My stomach tightened. This wasn't the homecoming I had imagined. When the squad car pulled up, 2 officers stepped out. Young men, polite but wary. Karen rushed to them dramatically, pointing at me as though she'd just uncovered a fugitive. "That's him? That's the man. He broke into my cabin and refuses to leave," she shrieked. The taller officer turned to me. "Sir, can we see some identification?" I stood slowly, pulled my wallet from my back pocket and handed him my driver's license. "My name is Daniel Whitaker. This is my property. I've got the deed in my truck if you'd like to see it." Karen laughed, a bitter sound. "Oh, please." He probably printed some fake papers off the internet. These types always have a story. Her words cut deep, but I didn't flinch. Instead, I walked calmly to my pickup, opened the glove compartment, and pulled out the manila folder I'd brought with me. Inside were the official documents signed, sealed, and recorded with the county. I handed them to the officer. The younger cop examined them carefully, then looked at me with a trace of respect. "This all looks legitimate." Karen's face reddened. "What? No, that can't be right. We voted years ago to absorb this land into the HOA. It's ours now." The taller officer shook. The morning after the police left, the cabin felt strangely silent. I brewed coffee on the old stovetop, listening to the slow drip and the faint hum of the lake outside. For the first time in years, I had woken up to the sound of loons instead of traffic. The smell of pine drifted through the open window. But peace doesn't last long when someone like Karen is your neighbor. By mid-morning, I heard voices outside, angry, clipped tones that carried through the trees. I stepped onto the porch and froze. There she was again, standing in the gravel drive, this time with 3 men in tow. Each wore the same smug expression, like they were on a mission. Karen pointed at me with the same authority as a queen dispatching soldiers. "That's him. That's the squatter I told you about." One of the men stepped forward. He wore a cheap suit and carried a clipboard. "Sir, I'm here on behalf of the Lakeshore Homeowners Association. You are in violation of multiple community bylaws. If you do not vacate this property within 72 hours, you will face fines and legal action." I nearly laughed, though bitterness twisted inside me. Community bylaws? This cabin predates your HOA by decades. You don't have authority here. Karen crossed her arms, a triumphant smile spreading across her face. "Oh, we'll see about that. You're trespassing on private HOA-controlled land? You haven't paid dues, you haven't maintained the property, and your presence lowers the value of our neighborhood. Frankly, this cabin is an eyesore." I stared at her in disbelief. An eyesore? This cabin was built by my father's hands, with sweat and pride. Every log carried his fingerprint, every nail a story. "Lady," I said quietly, but firmly,
Yes.
"this place is more than wood and nails. This is my family's history, and no one, especially was, going to take it from me." The man with the clipboard scribbled something down. "We'll see about that in court," he muttered, as they left. Karen threw one last dagger. "Don't unpack your bags, Daniel. You won't be here long." That evening, as the sun set over the lake, I sat on the porch with an old photo album I'd found in the loft. Pages of memories unfolded: my father fishing with me at dawn, my mother planting flowers by the steps, my children chasing fireflies during summer visits. The weight of those moments pressed into my chest like a stone. A lump rose in my throat. "I won't let you erase us," I whispered into the twilight. But Karen was just getting started. 2 days later, I returned from a grocery run in town to find something nailed to the front door. A bright red notice stamped with bold letters. HOA, seizure notice. This property is subject to immediate transfer of control. My hands shook as I ripped it down. My heart pounded in my ears. She was trying to steal my home openly, without shame. Moments later, Karen herself appeared, strolling down the gravel like she was on a runway. "Oh, good, you saw the notice. Saves me the trouble of explaining. Are you out of your mind?" I shouted, the calm I'd tried so hard to maintain shattering. "You don't own this property? You can't just take it." Her eyes glittered with something cold. "Watch me. I've done this before, and I'll do it again. People like you never win, Daniel. You'll tire out. You'll give up, but me, I don't stop." Her words cut deep, but beneath the anger, I felt something else. Pity. How broken must a person be to thrive on destroying others? I stepped closer, looking her dead in the eye. "You might control this neighborhood, but you don't control me. Not now, not ever." For a flicker of a second, she faltered. But then her smirk returned, and she turned on her heel. leaving her dog yapping at my feet. The following week was war. HOA inspectors started showing up unannounced, measuring my porch, photographing my windows, even walking onto my dock without permission. They claimed I was in violation of aesthetic standards. One man actually told me my roof shingles were the wrong shade of brown. At night, I'd hear Karen and her allies whispering outside, their flashlights bobbing like fireflies. I'd sit inside with the lights off, clutching the deed like a shield, my heart aching with both rage and exhaustion. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed outside and shouted into the dark, "Leave me alone. This is my land. You hear me? You can't scare me away." The woods swallowed my words, and for a moment there was only silence. Then Karen's voice cut through, cold and mocking. "You'll regret this, Daniel. Mark my words." Days later, the true blow came. I received a thick envelope in the mail, stamped with legal markings. Inside was a lawsuit. The HOA was officially suing me for illegal occupancy, damages to community property, and refusal to comply with governing bylaws. The number at the bottom made my stomach drop. Fines totaling over $180,000. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands trembling as I read through the pages. The weight of it all crushed me. I was just one man in his 60s, trying to reclaim a piece of his past. And now I was staring at the possibility of losing not only the cabin, but everything I had left. For the first time, doubt crept in. Maybe Karen was right. Maybe people like me don't win. Maybe I was too tired, too old, too broken to fight this battle. I buried my face in my hands, tears sliding down my cheeks. The cabin walls seemed to close in on me, whispering the laughter of my parents, the footsteps of my children. Was I about to lose them all over again? That's when the phone rang. It was my daughter, Emily. Her voice was warm, steady, and filled with love. "Dad, I just wanted to check on you. How's the cabin?" I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. It's under attack, honey. They're trying to take it from me. I don't know if I can fight them." There was silence for a moment. Then Emily spoke with quiet strength. "Dad, listen to me. That cabin is more than wood and nails. It's your heart. It's our family's soul. And if you give up now, you're not just losing a house, you're losing us. Please, don't let her win." Her words lit a fire inside me, the same fire I thought had burned out years ago. My father's voice echoed in my memory. "Son, some fights are worth every drop of strength you've got." I straightened in my chair, wiping the tears from my face. "You're right," I whispered. "You're absolutely right." That night, I pulled out every old box of paperwork I had: deeds, tax receipts, even photographs of my father building the cabin. I spread them across the table like a battle plan. Karen thought I was weak. She thought she could bully me into surrender. But she had underestimated one thing: the power of a man fighting for his roots. The next morning, I went into town and found a lawyer, an older gentleman named Mr. Carter, who'd lived by the lake all his life. When I told him my story, he leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing. "Daniel," he said slowly, "you're not the first person they've tried this with, but you might just be the first one with enough backbone to stand your ground. Don't worry, we're going to fight this. And I promise you, the truth is on your side." For the first time since I'd arrived, hope bloomed in my chest. But as I drove back to the cabin, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching me from the trees. The red spray paint on my cabin wall stayed with me through the night, burning into my mind like a scar. I sat by the fireplace, staring at those hateful words through the window, replaying them over and over. Get out or else. A moment, fear tried to take hold. At 63, I wasn't a fighter anymore. My knees ached, my hands weren't as strong as they used to be, and my heart had already weathered too many storms. But then I thought of my father, hammer in hand, sweat dripping down his brow as he built these walls. I thought of my mother, humming softly as she planted roses by the porch. And I thought of my daughter's voice telling me, "Don't let her win." That night, I made a promise to myself. I would see this fight through to the very end. The day of the hearing arrived like a storm cloud. The county courthouse loomed tall and gray, its steps lined with people. Word had spread quickly in our small town. Neighbors, fishermen, and even a few old friends I hadn't seen in years gathered, whispering about the HOA president who tried to steal a cabin. Inside the courtroom, Karen sat at the plaintiff's table, dressed sharply in a navy suit. Her lips curled into a smug grin when she saw me walk in. She had brought a small army of HOA board members, each with binders and papers stacked high. I took my seat beside Mr. Carter, my lawyer. He placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "Remember, Daniel, truth has a way of speaking louder than lies." The judge entered and the hearing began. Karen wasted no time. She stood tall, her voice carrying across the room. "Your Honor, this man is a trespasser. He abandoned the property for years, neglected it, and under HOA bylaws, it rightfully reverted to community ownership. His presence here threatens the value, safety, and order of our neighborhood. We demand he vacate immediately and pay damages." Her words dripped with confidence as though she had already won. Some in the audience murmured. Then it was my turn. I rose slowly, holding a folder of documents that suddenly felt heavier than stone. My voice trembled at first, but then grew steadier. "Your Honor, my name is Daniel Whitaker. My father built that cabin in 1964. It was passed down to me legally. I've paid taxes on it every year since. I left for a time, yes, but I never abandoned it. That cabin is my home, my history, and my family's legacy. And no one, not even an HOA, has the right to erase that." I handed the judge the deed. The tax receipts, photographs of my father building the cabin, even letters my mother wrote from the porch. The judge examined them carefully. Then his eyes lifted to me. "These documents appear valid and up to date. Mr. Whitaker, you've maintained ownership all along." Karen shot up from her chair, her face red. "Lies. He forged those papers. He's manipulating the court. You can't just let people walk in and claim property." The judge's gavel slammed. "Ms. Anderson, sit down. You will have your turn." But Karen wasn't finished. She turned to the audience, her voice rising. "Don't you see? If he stays, we lose control. The HOA loses its power. He's dangerous, unstable. He doesn't belong here." For a moment, the room was silent. Then, unexpectedly, an older man stood up in the back. His voice was gravelly but strong. "That's not true. I've known Daniel since he was a boy. I watched his father build that cabin with his own two hands. It's his. It's always been his." Another voice joined in, a woman from the lakeshore. "He's telling the truth. We all know it. That cabin isn't HOA property, it's family property." One by one, voices rose from the audience, neighbors defending me, confirming what Karen tried so hard to bury. Karen's face twisted with rage. She slammed her fist on the table. "This isn't fair. I own this neighborhood. I am the HOA." The judge's gavel thundered again. "That's enough, Ms. Anderson." His voice carried finality. "The evidence is clear. The property legally belongs to Mr. Whitaker. The HOA has no claim over it. The lawsuit is hereby dismissed." The words washed over me like sunlight breaking through clouds. My knees nearly buckled with relief. But the judge wasn't finished. He turned his gaze on Karen. "Furthermore, given the harassment, false claims, and intimidation tactics displayed, this court is referring the HOA board to the state attorney for review of potential misconduct. Consider this a warning. Abuse of power has consequences." Karen's jaw dropped. For the first time, she looked small diminished. Her eyes darted around the room, but there was no applause for her. No allies rushing to her defense. I closed my eyes, tears slipping down my cheeks. I had one not just for myself, but for my family, for my father's legacy, for every memory that cabin held. After the hearing, people gathered around me on the courthouse steps. Some shook my hand, others offered hugs. Emily drove in that afternoon, wrapping me in the tightest embrace. "I'm proud of you, Dad," she whispered. "You fought for us." As for Karen, she stormed past, her dog trailing behind, her once commanding presence reduced to a shadow. Her voice was low, bitter. "This isn't over. Deep down, I knew it was. Weeks later, the cabin looked alive again. I scrubbed the spray paint from the walls, replaced broken boards, even planted roses by the porch just like my mother used to. Neighbors who had once kept their distance now came by with pies, tools, and kind words. One evening, as the sun set over the lake, I sat on the porch with Emily. The sky turned shades of gold and purple, the water reflecting every hue. "You know," I said softly, "for a while I thought I was fighting for wood and nails. But I wasn't. I was fighting for memory, for root,